Did you know that India hosts 18% of the world's population but has only 4% of the global water resources? Even worse, with 54% of groundwater wells declining, India is staring at a situation where 40% of the population will not have access to drinking water by 2030. A Bank of America Merrill Lynch report also now suggests that the government is likely to spend as much as $270 billion in the next 5 to 15 years in various flagship water schemes. To speak more on this report, we have with us now Amish Shah, co-head of research India at Bank of America Merrill Lynch, to break down the findings of this report. Amish, welcome to the show and thank you for speaking with us. Let me begin by just asking you to take us through the key findings.
The big picture number that we've put out, first of all, is that water alone could be a $270 billion capex opportunity over a period of 5 to 10 years, depending on how soon the government implements these programs. And then we've discussed that in terms of bottom-up, which schemes will this money predominantly get spent. So there are 4 important schemes particularly. If I were to bifurcate the entire water capex value chain into actually 3 parts, so it will be about augmenting the water availability, it is about treating the water, and then it is about transporting the water. So in terms of water availability, you could do it in several ways. So either you harvest the rainwater or you reuse the existing water, both of these are cheaper options to generate water so as a source. And then you have capital intensive options, which is linking the rivers of India or desalinating the seawater. So if you go to the more capital intensive ones, then it could potentially be around $168 billion of capex just to generate the source of water, uniformly across India. And then, in terms of the water transportation, you really need to implement a lot of pipelines to connect the water source to the end users. And as you would know that in India right now, only 18.3% of the households in rural India particularly have an access to piped water supply. And the government's target is to take this number to 100% over the next 5 years. So if they really do that, that itself is $94 billion capex opportunity. And then you have the irrigation schemes, which is predominantly the money is being already invested by the state governments. Around $16 billion is what they spend per annum. And it is growing at a run rate of around 18% over the last 4 years. The center also pitches in towards some important schemes or larger schemes to help these projects out. And that itself, only the central contribution towards these schemes is around $4.5 billion as we see it over the next 5 years. And towards the end, you have the Namami Ganga program, which is already ongoing. It's around 28% complete currently, but the residual 72% that needs to be done will entail another $3 billion of capex. So you put up all of these together, and we are saying that it is a $270 billion capex number over and above the irrigation capex, which is already being implemented by the state.
No, I mean, that's a good point, but where is the money going to come from for this huge amount of funding that you have envisioned, and what would be the role of the private sector to participate in building up a resource that is going to become the most valuable commodity in the years to come?
So on your first question on where is the funding going to come from, so as I said that as of now, India is already spending $25 to $30 billion towards water-related capex. It's just that it is being implemented by many different ministries and departments, versus what this government is trying to do is to consolidate it all together into a uniform program. So just to give you some perspective, all the state governments cumulatively spend around $21 billion on water-related schemes, whether it is water supply, sanitation, water treatment. It is a $21 billion number, and it is already growing at 21% plus over the last 4 years. Secondly, as I said, that the central government already helps in certain large programs or schemes. And then over and above that, the employment guarantee scheme, as we know it, the Manrega scheme, also has a lot of projects that are towards the construction of dams or water conservation, etc. So that number is already quite significant. If you just package it all together and do a comprehensive planning, funding particularly may not be that much of an issue. But obviously, to your point, funding has to be stepped up. The first sign of that we already saw in this budget, where the piped water supply scheme, the government increased the allocation in the budget by around 81% this year. And hopefully going forward, they will continue to increase it. On your second part of the question on private sector, so look, there are two ways to look at it. If the government does all of this capex on a EPC basis, then this becomes a construction opportunity for all the private sector players anyways. But if they try to do this on a BOT model, where the private sector has to invest their capital, there I would say that the government needs to evolve business models, because we don't have too many BOT models within the water sector at this point in time.
Now, one of the data points that your report talks about is the fact that by 2030, 40% of Indians won't have access to drinking water. In your view, what are the challenges that the government and policymakers face to scale up efforts to make sure that this crisis is averted?
So, water in India is completely a state subject. So, the most important issue is to first get a consensus of all the states to work on this issue together. That's really, really critical. Because once you have that, a lot of the implementation things about the project related to land acquisition, environmental clearances, etc., a lot of that falls into the state domain. So they have to be first brought on board to implement this. Once that is done, the Jal Shakti Ministry, I'm sure, is already devising a plan on how they exactly want to address this issue. As we discussed that, first of all, where do you generate the water, whether through rainwater harvesting or river linking or desalinating the seawater, or maybe a mix of all. So they will have to devise a plan on how do you generate water, how you transport it, the funding mix of it, if the private sector has to be involved, if there is a revenue model that has to be devised for that. So all of this is the planning bit. And the third, is a lot about the awareness bit, because in India, a lot of water actually also gets wasted, and we don't recycle or reuse a lot of water as well. If there's a lot of awareness towards these issues, then it is almost like adding a new water source. So these are the three things I would say, whether you take as a challenge or the things that the government will have to work on it going forward.
You've been talking about the business opportunity in the water situation. The fact is, it's already a business in place in a very private, unorganized way. In urban areas, people perhaps don't realize how bad the situation is if they can afford to buy water, and private water tanker mafias are on the loose. Do you think stricter laws and a crackdown on these kind of businesses is the need of the hour?
So, whether you make a stricter law or whether you make a societal change in the mindset, one way or the other, this definitely needs to be addressed. The government clearly seems to have taken a more people-driven approach right now. So, as you would know, that on the 1st of July, the Jal Shakti Ministry has already launched a campaign where they have sent 2,000 senior bureaucrats all across central government, state government, district administration, technical experts. So a team of 2,000 plus senior bureaucrats have gone to 250 plus most stressed water districts. And what they are doing is to go on the ground and make people aware of how they can harvest water, how they can conserve water, why they should not why they should not contaminate the water resources, because 70% of the water bodies in India are already contaminated. So a lot of this they are already doing. The PM Modi himself, as you would know, has written to all the gram panchayats, encouraging them to involve people and make this as a mass movement. So clearly a lot of that within just 2 months of the ministry formation is already underway. And I would say that it should logically lead to good progress.
So what steps does the Jal Shakti Ministry need to take, especially to find success in very ambitious schemes like the Jal Se Nal promise that you will take piped water to every Indian household by 2024?
So again, I would say that, given that this is a state subject, and fortunately, given that a lot of states are also being governed by the NDA right now, it should logically be easier to build a political consensus, and that in itself is a big deal. So I think they will try to focus on that, and initial interactions or feedback suggests that all the chief ministers are any which ways quite excited to work on this issue, because as you pointed out that this is a humanitarian issue and we are heading towards a crisis. So it's already working. I think Jal Shakti Ministry can give a very good direction. They can give a funding plan, and they can therefore drive these schemes a lot faster as compared to what it was happening anyways.
Well, thank you so much for all your inputs. Amish Shah there from Bank of America Merrill Lynch coming in with some of his findings on how big the spends are going to have to be to make sure that India is water safe in the years to come. Well, it's an issue that we're tackling from every possible angle right here on the India Development Debate, and we urge you to participate as well. Here on the screen are some details of our campaign and where you can reach us. Thank you for joining us this evening. Stay tuned to ET Now.